My name is Christopher Granger-Bell, and this is my Chapter 8 AP lumbar spine. I greeted the patient upon his arrival. When I first made contact with the patient, I verified his name and date of birth. I asked the patient which part of his body was bothering him. The patient replied that it was his lower back that had been causing him a lot of discomfort for the past few days. I asked the patient if he needed any help getting to the X-ray examination table. The patient replied that he didn't need any help and was willing to do everything on his own. I verified the image that the doctor requested was an AP lumbar via email. I visually confirmed that the SID was exactly 40 inches by the screen in the tube, as well as using the tape measure located on the tube. I placed the image receptor inside the table bucky and made sure that the anatomy in question was centered on the IR. I selected the 14x17 image receptor for this examination. I inserted the IR portrait style inside of the table bucky for this examination. The IR was placed inside the table bucky at precisely 40 inches. The patient was laying supine on the examination table. 40 inches above the patient while lying supine in the examination table is where I placed the CR. I aimed the CR parallel with his iliac crest along with the pubic symphysis. There was no angulation of the CR for this examination. The collimation of the field was 17x7. I collimated the anatomy to include the lumbar spine. I placed the marker upon the torso of the patient at his anatomical right to include the marker inside of the image. When I had felt that the patient was in the correct position, I began the exposure. I instructed the patient to remain still and hold their breath for the length of time that it would take for me to complete this exposure. The anatomy that was demonstrated was the lumbar vertebrae bodies, the intervertebral joints, the spinous and the transverse process, and the sacrum. The items in profile were the lumbar vertebrae, the sacrum, and the coccyx. The pathology for this were fractures in the lumbar vertebrae, any herniated disc from the lumbar spine, as well as any fractures from the sacroiliac joint.